Mike or Mikey, either way, I'll respond to either. I'm an advertising major. I'm a senior, so hoping to stave off senioritis by actually being a good TA this semester, maybe. It'll be the first time in 2 years. So
No, he's been a great TA.
But I have been doing this for a while, so I've seen just about every difficulty and issue and all that. So please, if you ever have a problem, especially with Learning Suite, there's always glitches at some point in the semester. Take a screenshot, send it to me. I won't promise that I can fix the glitch, but I will promise that I can extend deadlines or reopen things if there is a glitch. So just let me know, I can handle that. And I promise I don't always dress this way. This is just for today and maybe other points in the semester. If you ever see me dressing weird, it's just, just ignore it. But so yeah, I think that's everything. I guess I'm from Northern Virginia. Anyone else from Virginia here?
What part of Northern Virginia?
Like Vienna, Fairfax County.
I'm from Winchester.
Oh, cool. There you go. So, any other East Coasters?
Raleigh.
Nice.
But I lived in Chantilly, so.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's right there. Yeah.
Maryland.
Maryland. Oh,
Nice.
my parents instilled a hatred of Maryland in me because
Listen to him.
Northern Virginia and Maryland just, a lot of conflict there, I guess. Anyway, hope you guys have a great semester. I actually have class during this class, so you may not see me a ton in here, but hopefully I get to know all of you a little bit better. And like I said, just email me if you have a problem.
Thanks, Mike.
Probably taking enough time.
No, you're good. And so Mike's email is sistermorgansTA@gmail.com. Oh, so you know. That's good. That's good. I'm happy. All right. Thank you, Mike. Enjoy your class. The best. Okay. Let's just briefly do this. What I want you to do is take a minute, go over the readings that you have today. So you have the Teachings of the Living Prophet, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. I'm going to get them to soften that door. It's kind of crazy. Sorry for the people in the back there. And yeah, that's it. So look over it. Some of you may have it with you. If you don't, pull it up on your online if you can. If you don't have either of those things, just think through what you read and try to think of something. Everyone here is going to share something. I know some of you just out of the class, so just bear with us today. I'm going to give you about a minute and a half to look for something to share, and then I'm going to give you some instructions about what I mean by that. So you're on your own for a minute and a half. Okay, so yeah.
And, sorry, is this based off of Chapter 1 or Chapter 2?
Both.
Okay.
Whatever you like to share. Okay, so I'm going to interrupt you now. I'm just going to give you a background of group work. So I hate group work when it's ineffective. I love it when it's effective. So just a couple of things to make it hopefully more effective with you. So, and I'm going to use the prophets to teach these principles too. So President Packer says that a testimony is gained in the bearing of it. So for me, this you will see from today and onward. We talk a lot this class. You guys are doing a lot of talking, a lot of sharing, a lot of discussing amongst each other, and I'll be sharing with you. The more we learn, as it says in Doctrine and Covenants, when all have spoken, that all may be edified of all, right? So I am a big believer in that. Most importantly, that the Spirit has a chance to teach, right? So, President Packer, a testimony is gained in the bearing of it. The more you gain, the more testimonies you're able to share, the more you're able to talk about the gospel, more likely will you be able to have a stronger testimony. So that's one. The second one, Elder Maxwell teaches that we are each other's clinical material. So in this room, I am a firm believer that by Tuesday, when the ad drop deadline is here, This is our class. We're here for each other. We're building and strengthening and learning from each other's strengths and weaknesses and everything in between. So be prepared to build and strengthen and really help each other and hopefully be good influences for others by your comments, by your insights, by your whatever else it is, by your questions. And then the third one is President Eyring. He says that one out of every 2 people, he says, will usually be struggling with something. And so in this class, we just recognize that as we're talking, that you're likely sitting next to somebody, or you yourself is having a difficult day, or something's going on in your life. And when you do short group work things, or when you're talking in class, just recognize that sometimes people are just having a hard, heavy day, and you have no idea what's going on in your life. They may be smiling and looking great, but there may be something else going on. So just treat each other with kindness, and especially with love, as President Warren said. Good? The intent, of course, for all of this is to help each other be converted to the gospel of Jesus Christ and exaltation. That sounds pretty high and out there, but that really is our intention here. Good? Okay, so with that, today, I just gonna have you choose something that you want to share for those first 2 chapters. It doesn't have to be way amazing, just something that you think is important in those chapters, and you're just going to share it with one other person that's in here, 1 or 2 other people, depending. So in here, let's just do, I think it's easy if you just go, you guys share together, and you're probably gonna have to be a threesome here. And then, what's your name right here?
Carson.
Carson, you've got to be a threesome there too, because our video recorder, whose name I already forgot again. Anna has no idea what we're doing except for to listen to the video, okay? So make a threesome. And the same thing here, if there's not somebody sitting across from you, just make yourself into a threesome with another group. And same thing with you guys, and then you guys just go 2, and maybe 3 back there. Maybe the back row just 2, and then 3, you 3 in the back. Is that good? All right. So I just want you, first of all, introduce yourself, talk a little bit about who you are, your name, where you're from, your major, whatever you want to share. And then I want to give you just a couple of minutes just to talk about what stood out to you from the readings. So I'll stop you in a few minutes. Ready, break.
Hi.
Hello. So, start off with Brent from Arizona.
I feel like it turns into like I guess like everything. If you look at the remember the British House of Commons. I talked to the stories in the past there, but now it's happening. And then Brown I just love this moment that they don't love it. And then the House of Commons guy realized like no, that's a lot of that's obviously
in the second chapter, it talks about how a lot of times they just believe in living prophets because they're here on the earth at the same time as us, even though they have no clue living prophets in the past. And he sort of like shares a story about someone like in the early 1900s, I think, who like struggled to believe in Joseph Smith because he seemed too close as compared to prophets in the Bible, as well as like an example when I think Billy Graham or someone was the prophet and they struggled with the testimony that he was the prophet, even though they believed his predecessors versus prophets, and just sort of comparing that to how it was used in the same thing in the time they didn't believe in Jesus. The Pharisees had no trouble following the letter of the law with the law of Moses.
So the part I liked was chapter 1. It talked about how the Lord has prophets on earth and really need them. And so really I kind of started, not really the devil advocate for the advocate time, but I was thinking, like, why didn't, the Dark Ages need the prophets? Why didn't, the moms of the times, like, there's lots of times that we know of that weren't the greatest in history, why they're making a profit and why they're using it. So you kind of compare our culture where we're at compared to what I know of history. I'm not used to either. Probably really inaccurate. Just comparing and seeing that, we do live in a confusing time. More confusing than the black lives. We live in a time where we don't know exactly what is the right answer. A lot more complicated world than it's very time.
Okay, guys, here's your 15-second warning. Finish your thoughts.
I agree with you. Every semester we have a
Okay, let's get going here. Sorry to cut you guys off halfway, some of your mid-sentence. Let's just discuss just for a few minutes. A lot of times we'll be going through this together, but we'll be doing similar things as this as well. And sometimes some of you often will be just taking a talk and just giving us a 5-minute briefing on it. So we'll be all over the place together in this class. So just what stands out that you need to know, that members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints need to know about those first 2 chapters? Start us off.
I think the section about the seer and how specifically a seer is someone who understands and knows the things that God has hidden from the world. And I think it was just cool for me to learn that the prophets and the apostles know things that we may not even know yet, and that they're very aware of specific things for our specific time.
Yeah, I was in a meeting that Elder Ballard was speaking at a number of years ago. It was in the conference center, not the conference center, it was the Tabernacle on Temple Square. And he said, he gave his talk, and then he said, now I'm going to speak to you as a seer. And he said, 20 years from now, and then he just started talking about what was going to happen 20 years from now. It was like amazing. And then he said, just so you know, and it was kind of a random, just little teaching moment. He said, just so you know, often prophets, seers, and revelators see about 20 years in advance. I was like, that's kind of, like, where did that come from? It was a really interesting time. And I've never heard anybody else say that, just him, but it was just kind of an interesting moment. But he clearly was seeing, it was about 15 years ago, and what he was saying that he saw is very obviously happening. I would get into it, but it was actually a meeting that I'm not supposed to get into, but it was really fascinating. Thank you. Yes, okay, keep going. What else is essential from those 2 chapters? Yeah, Willa.
A bit of what we discussed last class period. President Packer said that the doctrines will remain fixed, eternal. The organization, programs, and procedures will be altered as directed by him whose church it is. I thought that was really nice because we don't have to focus on all the different commandments that have happened, from all the different prophets. We just need to focus on the doctrine, the scriptures, and what we're given from living prophets at this time.
Amen. None of us right now, at least as far as I know, the Lord hasn't commanded me or any of you to build an ark. And thank goodness, right, that we don't have to do everything He's commanded everybody else. But He has asked us to spend more time in quiet places and attending the temple. So maybe that is something that maybe I should be focusing on. It may take about the same amount of time, right? And maybe even the same amount of effort. Right? Good. What else? Yeah.
I thought it was super interesting how Brigham Young mentioned, said that the value of the teachings of living prophets is greater than the value of the Book of Mormon.
Pretty powerful, huh? Why do you think that is? What's he trying to get across to us? Yeah.
I think he's trying to emphasize how the living oracles, because they're really applicable to us in our day. One, and I think that prophet, he repeated that a few times in the talk. And I thought that was so cool because we put so much emphasis on reading the scriptures, and when he said that he would rather have the living oracles than all the writing of the books, I thought that was that really put an emphasis on how we should view general conference and how we should incorporate that in our daily studies as well.
Perfect. Frankly, President Nelson is trying to get us to read the Book of Mormon. Every prophet since Joseph Smith has been trying to get us to read the Book of Mormon in different ways and different manners and maybe different revelations that they're receiving. But still, even, and I love the Book of Mormon, love the Book of Mormon. But I would rather have President Nelson if it came down to it, because he's receiving personal revelation for us in this day. But I hope in understanding that we're not saying that the Book of Mormon and the scriptures are not important, right? No one uses and quotes and is studying from the Book of Mormon. I should say no one. I'll just say it in a different way. We have a prophet who clearly is using the scriptures to guide his life, right? And so he's an example of doing and saying those things. He's not going to discount the Book of Mormon, but he also recognizes that what he says as a prophet is extremely important. Right? Excellent. In the back.
I just really liked what President Lee said about what was contrary to the order of heaven in 1840 might not be contrary to the order of heaven in 1960.
Yeah.
And so it's okay if a current prophet contradicts something that a past prophet said with policies and things.
Yeah.
Because our circumstances are always changing.
That is one thing I've noticed with this generation. It's not meant to be critical. But when a prophet says something that may be different than what they heard a different prophet say, they have a really, really hard time sometimes dealing with some ambiguity. Jesus Christ himself was ambiguous, right? There were times when he just said, who is your neighbor? And he gives you an explanation, but he doesn't say, and this person, and this person, and this person. He just expects you to figure that out. Prophets are ambiguous. They give us very specific guidelines at times, but they also, those guidelines, those policies and procedures that we talked about before in applications, they change. And we are a church who actually teaches that as our articles of faith, as one of our articles of faith, right? Continuing revelation. Good, excellent, thank you. What else? What else is significant and important in here? Yeah.
It talked a lot about how the prophet will never lead the people astray, and even one of the quotes said, like if the prophet were to lead the people astray and they followed him, the Lord would still bless his people because they followed his prophet.
Amen. A stinking man. It's a hard one for some people to learn as well. But let me ask you this. I remember listening to a general conference talk, and Elder Cook was speaking, and he gave a percentage. I think it was a number, if I remember right. And I knew, because I was working for the church research and information department, the number he actually gave was wrong. Like, I was like, no, right? So here's a question. Is it possible for a general authority or an apostle to be standing up, or a prophet to be standing up at general conference and say something that's wrong and still be a prophet? Clearly it is, because he wasn't released, right? And he's still doing great, and it was no intention. It was somehow he had the wrong information, and it was corrected by the time it came out in the Ensign. Good. But even if it hadn't been corrected by the time it came out in the Ensign, what's the difference between that happening and a prophet when we say that they will never lead the church astray? How do we deal with mistakes and that quote? Yeah.
Well, a mistake like that can just be like a fumble. Like, you can be a truthful person, but in a conversation you may get some facts or information confused and it comes out wrong.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you're dishonest. And I think it's the same way with the prophet of God who is receiving revelation for people's salvation. They're not changing the revelation or the fundamental principles of helping others' salvation.
Yes. What we're talking about is the prophet will never lead the church or an individual astray. That's different than he may make a mistake here and there, right? He may say something at general conference that may not exactly be correct. That happens. I'll give you an example. I work on the church correlation department, and there was, I can't remember who it was, I can see his face, but I can't remember his name, who made a statement. I'll just make you the statement so you can see where my brain goes. This is what I do during general conference because I correlate things, right? So he made a statement. He said, when I'm gone, my son, I'm so grateful that when I'm gone, my son leads the family and makes sure that the prayers are said, or something like that. What's wrong with that statement? You're getting this now from a female teacher who works a lot in this area. Yeah.
What about the wife?
Yeah. The wife? Why would the son be telling the wife what to do, right? So that statement was said in general conference. When it came out in the Ensign, the correlation department, a couple of others looked at it and said, that's going against church policy. It's the mother, not the son, who's in charge of family prayer when the father is gone, right? Does that make sense? She's the presider. They're married. She's the one presiding. The son never can tell the mother what to do. Does that make sense? So that becomes extremely important. So by the time he said it, it went through this process. It was corrected. And by the time it came out in the Ensign, it was ready to go. All they changed it was it said under the mother's direction, the son. Which probably isn't what was happening, but that's what we ended up saying. Is that good? Does that make sense? That's something that has in some ways changed over the years. That's something that is extremely important in today's day, and we've heard talks and talks and talks over and over again about this topic. And so they're much more careful about it now than they used to be. Good? We see similar things like that going on in the temple changes. The temple itself, the doctrines have not changed, but some of the things that do happen, as it said in the first presidency message, do change. Okay, good. All right, there are a number of other things in there. What about keys? What did you learn about keys? What was emphasized even, yeah.
I loved it in, I think it was chapter 2, and they're telling the story of, I think they were in like Denmark or something.
Yeah.
And they're looking at all the images, and there's a picture of Peter holding the keys, and the prophet, I can't remember the name, the prophet?
No, you're good.
At the time, basically says to the mission president or the stake president that was with them, like, I need you to let everyone in this country know, like everyone under your stewardship know, that I hold these keys, and like that these keys are in my possession, or like something like pretty powerful like that. And I just remember that was just like really impactful of knowing. It was, I think, the Copenhagen stake, yeah. But with President Kimball, but just that he was just making it clear on no uncertain terms that those keys were in one person's possession, and that was him.
Yeah, the prophet, President Nelson today would be that bold too. Those keys that prophet holds today, the keys belong to Jesus Christ, the prophet holds them. The first presidency and Quorum of the 12 all hold these keys, right? But it's the prophet who is the one who is in charge of whether or not they are going to be used in this dispensation this time. Again, the prophet, we'll talk about this more, the prophet doesn't hold all the keys, but he does hold all the keys in this dispensation at this time. And those keys are very real. Received through Peter, James, and John the Baptist first, and then the other keys, additional keys received in the Kirtland Temple through Moses, Abraham, and Elijah. Yeah.
When you say he doesn't hold all the keys, but he holds the keys for this dispensation, isn't this the dispensation of the fullness of time?
It is.
What keys might not be holding?
We know for sure 2, there are more, but we know that they do not hold the keys of resurrection, and they do not hold the key of creation.
Okay.
There have been other keys that have been discussed that they do not hold. I can't remember off the top of my head, but those are the 2 that are most commonly talked about that they don't hold. Good? Okay, again, there's much more we could talk about. We're going to move on here for a second. We're going to talk about our syllabus because we're going to spend our last 20 minutes getting some administrative things done. Good? So hopefully you'll have some questions. I'm going to talk to you first about your paper because as it says in here, start your paper today. I'm going to look with you at your syllabus on this calendar, and sorry that the formatting kind of got weird on me, but so January 10th is today. It says start research for Attribute of Christ. I should say paper, it doesn't. Attribute of Christ. So that's going to be due, your first part, January 24th, so 2 weeks from today. You have your doctrinal paper, rough draft, time-long research bill due at the beginning of class. So let me just explain to you a little more about what this is. Hopefully you read the syllabus, so you have some background. I'll just walk you through it though. So, Elder Bednar, in his talk, Reservoir of Living Water, talked about him choosing a topic, or being assigned a topic, and then what he did in order to prepare himself to give that talk at BYU. I think it was BYU Idaho that he gave it at. And his topic, if you remember, was gathering. So he said, I was using the topic of gathering. And then, for you guys, what did he do after he had the topic? What did he do to give his talk on this, the study part? Yeah.
He went through the Book of Mormon and printed out every scripture that had the term gather, gathering in it.
Yes. And he actually goes through, he says he goes through all the scriptures, right? The Book of Mormon and everything else, every single one he could possibly find that has anything to do with the word gather in it. So then what does he do? He studies everything he can. What does he do with the scriptures that he finds? He groups them. He actually says, people may think I'm funny, I must have loved as a child cutting things out and coloring them and grouping them. So he actually takes everything he studied and he starts putting different piles with the different themes and topics that he's been studying. So he has gathering. He says he goes with a blank slate as much as he can. And as he was studying it, he learned there are purposes of gathering. Can I remember all of them? Places of gathering. And maybe it was blessings of gathering. So he says, I learned these things while I was studying. So he takes it, he studies all these scriptures, and from all of these scriptures he says, this one has to do with places, this one has to do with places, this has to do with blessings, this one has to do with blessings. And he starts putting different papers into different stacks, right? All these references. So this is exactly what you're going to be doing. So you have a time log and a study trail. So those are the first things. Your time log, all you do is you just say, today is January 10th. I finished the reading for this class, it needs to be done. I still have 20 minutes, so for 20 minutes, I studied this topic. So whatever topic, weakness. And then, rather than doing it over here, you're just going to say, so these are all the scriptures that I studied. What I want you to do now is using your topical guide, you go through and you do the same thing with whatever topic you choose. Could be meekness, could be humility, could be love, whatever you choose. Every time you look at the scripture, I want you to write it down. Even if you're not going to use it, write it. So Matthew chapter 5, verse 6, or chapter 2, verse 1, whatever it is. I should be, by the time you're done with this, I should be given by you pages of scripture references. The ones that stand out to you think they're important, keep note of them, however it's effective for you. So Matthew 5 actually has to do with something that I'm studying, so I'm going to write it out. 35 chapter 2, verse 1 had really nothing, but I looked it up, and so I'm going to write it down. So you're showing me proof of 5 hours of study. Does that make sense? And you're just going to keep doing this all the way until you've done 5 hours worth of study. And then you're going to take these and you're going to start analyzing it. So these were Elder Bednar's. If I'm studying it, how do I come up with my topics? It's just whatever comes up, right? So I'm reading it and I say, oh, I've been studying meekness now for 5 hours and these topics stand out to me. So it may be how to gain meekness. It may be why meekness is important. It may be combining meekness with humility and understanding the similarities and differences between the two. So for Elder Bednar, he wrote a talk based on this. You're writing a one-page paper based on this. Does that make sense? So far, so good? So then with that one-page paper, you simply say, meekness is, in your own definition, right here, period, and you define it. And then for the rest of the paper, you're telling me how to gain meekness will maybe be the first paragraph or the second paragraph. Why meekness matters, and the third paragraph, meekness and humility. And so you're just going to write those things. After every sentence, you're going to have a reference. And the reference is going to point us back to one of these scriptures that you studied, and it's in your study log, in your study trail. So I should be able to look at this, and know that this ties into this, and eventually ties us into the whole gamut. Is that good? So this isn't a testimony paper, this isn't a travel log, this isn't, I think meekness is really important because this is, the scriptures teach this about meekness. And this is what I'm writing, right? And that's what it is. So what I don't want you to do is go into the Bible dictionary. I don't want you going to preach my gospel and looking at chapter 6. I don't want you going to anything that's already been written. The way they wrote Preach My Gospel and the way they wrote the Bible dictionary was by doing this. They studied the scriptures, they studied the words of the prophets, and then they wrote it. And so I want you to do the homework, not choose somebody else's homework to already be done for you. Does that make sense? Okay. After you're done with this process, the rest of the time, you're going to turn this in. So you're going to turn your time log, your study trail, and time log, study trail, and rough draft, I should put here, on the 24th of January. So it's on here. You bring all of this with you. And then we're going to grade each other's and give each other feedback in class. And then after you get the feedback, then the actual paper is due on the 29th. And I'll explain what you need to do then. That's all. Is that good? So let's throw me some questions. Go for it.
In the syllabus, it talks about reading 2 talks from
Yeah.
living prophets and apostles on the subject as well. How will that fit in with our paper?
Yeah, so a maximum of 2 talks. So I want you to be studying the topic first. So for meekness, for example, there are not a lot of references of meekness in the scriptures. You can use some similes to go with it. You can find some other ways to use it. That's great. But meekness, there are a couple of really good talks by the prophets and by the brethren and some of the sisters about meekness. So if you study those 2 talks, that's great. Keep it a part of this. Keep it part of your study log. Throw it in here that you read these talks and kind of this is what stood out as far as your study log. And then for here, as you're writing it, you'll just say Nelson 2018. I don't know every talk, but I know enough talks that I can just look at and say, oh yeah, I know that talk, right? So you will actually be grading each other's papers, and I will also be grading your paper. One thing on grading, I'll just throw out to you. I'm always, always, always the final say. So sometimes I'll have you grading each other's papers. Mike's not going to be in here for journals, so we'll likely be grading each other's journals so you can get those back immediately. If you ever get a journal or a grade that you don't agree with, anytime, please come talk to me. I am here to bend over backwards for you, but you have to use me. I can't help you if you don't, right? So just use me, but I'm always the final say. Good? Other questions? Yeah.
So do you want us to actually study every scripture and all the standards works that have the word in it, or just as many as you can in 5 hours?
As many as you can in 5 hours. And if you go over 5 hours, if you don't have enough for 5 hours, then start studying like a simile, something that's similar to it, and just kind of, or study the opposite, like Elder Bednar says in that talk. Sometimes by studying doubt, you learn a lot about faith, right? Because it's the opposite of it. So just use study for 5 hours the best way that you can. Good? Thank you. Other questions? Just throw them at me, guys. Yeah.
In the syllabus, it talks about the paper being 3 paragraphs. Does it have to be exactly 3, or can I do 4?
You can do 4, you can do 2, but it needs to be 1 page. I am a stickler on the 1 pager. I have learned over the years that if I let them go longer, the longer they get, the worse they get. So if I get up 1 page, I know you've thought it through, cut things out, worked yourself, and it ends up being pretty good. Yeah. And then a couple of questions. Yeah, here first.
So does the timer off need to be like in a Word document? Handwritten?
It can be handwritten, however is easiest for you. The only thing that needs to be typed or in a document is going to be your actual paper, and then this actual other paper. Good? Yeah. What else?
Could you do like a comparison of what's the difference between hope and hope?
Absolutely.
Or would you prefer to just do like hope?
You can do, it's what, you have to understand that you're going to be applying this for the rest of the semester, right? So for your paper, if you want to do what's the difference and kind of do a combination thing there, I'm great with that for the paper. But I do want you to be choosing what you're going to be doing, what you've been learning about, so you can apply that. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's good. Other questions on this, guys? Okay. Feel free to ask in the future, but I really do recommend you get on this right away. You can double dip all the time, so if you're studying this, let's say you finish your reading for Tuesday's class tomorrow, and so you have Monday and Tuesday morning to spend 30 minutes a day on this, and that can count for your part of your 5 hours. So double dip where you can and use all this. The first 2.5 weeks of this class is really heavy. Then after that, it's just 30 minutes a day until the end of the semester. So I'm putting a lot on you at the beginning because I know at the end of the semester you get more stressed out than at the beginning, so I'm push it on you now and then let you kind of breeze through, I guess, the rest. Yeah?
And so if we're doing some research on our paper for the half hour that day, you want us to still write a doctrine, principle, invitation, and promise blessing from that session of study?
Yeah, just from that session of study, yeah. Yeah, excellent. Another thing on that, well, I'll talk about this when I get to the journal. Yeah, go ahead.
So for the 30 minutes a day, it says in the syllabus it has to be words of the living prophets. So you're saying it's okay if we use scriptures? Or
When you're studying, yeah, well, anything else from the paper, and then we'll go to the journal. That's good. Anything else from the paper? You guys have questions on? Okay, let's go to the journal then. So that's perfect. So yes, so just to clarify one more time, in case I wasn't clear on this one. So for January 15th, for example, these are the assignments that are due by that point. At this point, we haven't read any of the Living Prophets, but we'll really start that on January 17th. So you can read these. A lot of you will be done within that 30 minutes or have other things to do. I want you to continue to study, just get deeper into that topic for that day. So, or deeper into another topic that we're studying around this time. So if the topic is biography of President Nelson, you want to know more about him, you can study more about him if you want to. By the way, that is in your book, Know Them Which Labor Among You. It's not a lot of reading for that day. So for that day, I want you to go back, maybe look more at President Nelson's life, get online, look at what you can find about President Nelson, just get deeper into that topic. Or look more into succession in the presidency, or look more into the change from one prophet to the other, or keys of the priesthood. But I want you to spend 30 minutes really honing in on this class, teaching the living prophets. Does that make sense? So you can use scriptures, you can use other things as well. But make sure that you have this all read before Tuesday. Make sure you're always on top of things, because Tuesday will always be a quiz that you're taking. Good? Is that okay? Anything else on your journals? Yeah.
So the one exception to the journals being from the Words of the Living Prophets is if we're using our study time for this as our 30 minutes a day. Is that
yeah,
correctly
but so
understood?
let's say I'm reading The Price of Priesthood Power for January 24th. I finished that talk, it was fantastic, and I recognize I don't know a lot about priesthood, or I thought I knew everything about the priesthood, and all of a sudden I'm realizing there have been books written on this, and clearly what I thought I knew for my mission, I really maybe missing some things. And so now I'm going to start studying the scriptures even more on the topic of priesthood power. Or I'm going to read another talk by President Oaks on priesthood power, or by Elder Ballard, or whatever else. So you can continue to read other things and using those scriptures too. But during that 30 minutes, I just want you focusing, make sure you finish these first, and I would say for most of you, slow down, read them carefully, read them again, and then read them again, right? There's a lot more in these talks than people realize. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, Emily.
So it says, I see like there's 3 places where the analyses are due.
And I call them journal analysis back and forth, so I'm sorry. Yeah, but go ahead.
And so you want not just like pick your best one out of those ones, but you want like the whole log.
You're bringing in the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So in this class, again, because of Mike, what you'll do, you'll bring it in, And then I will have you actually go through and count all of the days that you have written. So it's 1 point for the doctrine, principle, invitation, promise, blessing, 1 point for the signature. You'll count it, you put on a sticky note, I'll have you trade it with somebody else. If there are things that are private in there, in this case, don't write them in there, put them somewhere else. Nobody's gonna read it, they're just gonna go through really and count it, and you're gonna share with them one of the things that stood out to you that's important. And then at that point, you'll just turn those sticky notes in. Because without a TA, I want to get those back to you as soon as you can so you can just start writing in them again. Some of you are on the computer and it doesn't matter, but those of you who are doing handwritten ones, you need to get them back that day, right? So that'll be our quick way of doing that. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do our doctrine and principle and anything else, that, does it always have to be on, from something that we're assigned to read, or can it be something that we supplement?
Supplemental is fine, yeah. What I don't want you doing is saying, I've read this and now I'm gonna do my 15 minutes of the Book of Mormon study today. This isn't, you're doing your Book of Mormon study. This is a Living Prophets class, and I want you focusing on Living Prophets. I love the Book of Mormon. This comes from personal experience in my life. I'm a religion professor, so you can imagine I'm reading religious stuff all the time. There's not a day, I don't think there's a day that's gone by in the last 20 years of my life where I wasn't in the scriptures. And it's not, sometimes it's not even by choice, it's professionally, this is what I do. But if I don't have my own personal scripture study time in the Book of Mormon, I still can't go to sleep at night. Does that make sense? So professionally, and the same with you, as students, you're in the scriptures, you're going to teach Living Prophets, but I still hope on your own time, you're still having personal scripture study. Hopefully both will be blessing you in your life, and you can bless other people as a result. Okay, good, great question. Anything else on the journals? Okay, so let's talk about the other parts of the syllabus. Hopefully you'll read this on your own. So I'll just start here with one midterm and final. Did I talk about the midterm and final last time at all? So the midterm and final, midterm is 25 points, finals were 50. And I had this philosophy. I like to be able to discuss things. I like to go on tangents sometimes with you. I like to follow the spirit. If I'm doing that, I can't be focused on what's on the test. Right, you get that? So what I do is, for the test, I will go through questions 1 through 25 with you the class period before the test. So I'll say, you need to know these 5 prophets, you need to know these talks, these quotes, and you need to know, and then I'll go 1 through, at this point it'll be 10 through 25, true, false, multiple choice. You need to know these, right? My average score on Living Prophets test is an A-, B+, A-, because I give it to you. But I'll tell you, there are some students who don't do very well because they think it's so easy, they just don't study for it. You still need to study and know the answers and find those answers. I'm not giving you that, I'm just giving you the questions. Good? So be prepared for that. But I am never here to trick you. I'm here to help you be converted to the gospel of Jesus Christ. So for any reason you feel tricked or you feel like I was just trying to pull a quick one on you, just come talk to me and I'll fix it with you. Okay? Please don't ever be afraid of me. I hope I'm not a scary person. I hope we're not. But my office is upstairs. If you want to go out to ice cream with me, let me know. I'll give you my cell phone number. Whatever you need, I'm here for you. Good? Kind of cheesy, but it's true. All right? Okay, so that's the midterm and the final. And the finals are in the testing center. Midterm and final are both in the testing center. The next part is your daily analysis or journal. We've already gone through that. Notice the point value. That's probably triple, not quite triple, but 2 to 3 times as many points as your midterm and final combined. About double what your midterm and final combined. So your attendance, 2 absences. If you're going to be missing, make sure you talk to me in advance, email me in advance, especially if there's something due. If I get something after it's due, then it's late. So please make sure you're careful on that. My late, I'm pretty strict on my late policy. It's in here. So if it's turned in, and it's supposed to be turned in, great. If something's to be turned in at the beginning of class and it's turned in at the end of class, it's 10% off. And then if it's turned in the same day, it's 25, and then the next day is 50, and then I'm done at that point. I found that when I do that, things just get turned in on time. Is that good? And please know in here I also say, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves for all of you, not all of you, but those of you who struggle with this. If the printer is not working 10 minutes before class starts, that's not the printer's fault and everybody else's. You should have had it printed out way before 10 minutes before class starts. So if the printer isn't working, I'm really sorry, but you hurt yourself. Print it out 2 hours before, don't print it out 10 minutes before. Is that good? Just, in other words, just please be responsible for your things because it'll still be late, okay? I actually learned that from Elder Bednar. He actually told me never to accept late work, but I do. I can't be that person yet. I'm trying so hard to be that person, but I've been strict. He doesn't accept late work, period. If it's not due when it's done, you got a 0. So I'm not that way yet, but someday I may be that way. But I will be strict as far as keeping it that way. Good? And it's the same thing. We have, on the next part, we have quizzes. So reading quizzes complete on Learning Suite by Tuesday at 12. This class starts at 1, my other class starts at 12, but Learning Suite puts you all together into one class, and so in order to make it so the other class can do it right, we do it at 12. So just make sure that you're on there by Tuesday at 12. Good? Easy enough? Quizzes are gonna take you probably 1 minute or less, so it should not be stressful at all. If I ever ask you a question about what you're reading and things, it's always open book, open anything, open people, open parents, whatever you want. And you can have it open as long as you want. You can take them as many times as you want to. Good? Quizzes, the only way that I've seen the past quizzes hurt you is if you forget. And if you forget, you forget. I don't allow made up quizzes, which is also in the syllabus. I feel like I'm having a mean Sister Morgan moment right now. I have it on here that you can't make up quizzes, and I have it bolded that you can't make up quizzes, and I have it on your syllabus quiz that you can't make up quizzes. So if I get an email from one of you that says, Sister Morgan, I know that it's bolded in the syllabus that I can't make up quizzes, and I know that it was on the quiz that I can't make up quizzes, but I'm wondering if I can make up this quiz. The answer will simply be probably no response, and I'm just a little bit bugged at the moment. Just got it? I really mean it. Of course there are exceptions. If you had a car accident, or if you broke your ankle, or if something else is going on completely different, I am always here and will bend over backwards to help you. But I cannot compromise my integrity because you forgot something. Is that good? So please don't ask me to compromise my integrity. It's really frustrating to get asked that all the time. Good? Which is true. Love it. Okay. All right, so the last part is, those are the quizzes, and then you have your doctrinal paper, which is already explained up here. You'll come up with a plan. That'll still be in a couple of weeks out there. And then the last part is your course evaluation for 10 points. Just so you know, guys, this class is a stinking riot. You're going to love it. I love it. The assignments in here, I'll just give you one quick minute. I was talking about Elder Bednar. This syllabus actually comes from a conversation I had with Elder Bednar as we sat together for about an hour and discussed the things that are important that the prophets are talking about that students need to be doing. Christ Psychiatry was a discussion and a topic that we came up together. I actually sent him my syllabus and he looked through it and gave me some feedback back. We're not best friends by any means, but we do have a little line of communication. Someday I'll tell you the story behind it when we get to that. But just know that as you follow through with this and you're willing to do things, there should be nothing in here that's just a hoop jumping experience. You can make it the best, or you can make it just writing things down. But if you do it right, your life will change because the Spirit will guide you. You're trying to become more like Christ. You can't go wrong doing that, right? Any other final comments, questions? Chistes? Anything? Okay, well, I'll testify of this one thing before you go. Two things, actually. Number one, the church is true. And then number two, as cheesy as it may sound, as I am a cheesy professor, and you'll find that more of that, every day I pray for you. Literally every day. I keep a prayer journal, and I write you in there. Sometimes I write you by name. Sometimes I write you by class. Sometimes I think about you and see faces. Whatever it is, frankly, it doesn't matter. But what it has done to me is it testifies to me of the reality that Heavenly Father knows who you are and that He loves you. I know that because I pray for you daily. I feel His love, and often I will have names or faces or things on my mind, and I will completely switch things or change things around or have a different discussion because of an impression I have. I don't even know who needs it. It just happened that day. Does that make sense? So I do testify to you, the church is true, and today I just testify that God knows you. He does know who you are. You are important to Him, and you are loved by Him. And I say that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. You're awesome. We'll see you.